This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi on the Tom Bigby River called Columbus. And sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is Heritage Academy Part 6, Understanding the MAIS Connection. Recently, I was searching online for information about the MAIS, the Mid-South Association of Independent Schools, and its mission when I found a PDF created by former Executive Director Shane Blanton titled Mid-South Association of Independent Schools, Understanding Independent School Parents. It is an interesting document that makes it clearer to me why the culture there is just as convoluted, non-student-centric, and self-serving as the Heritage Academy culture. I am not sure why that surprises me. However, it is interesting to see a lot of the arrogance in the MAIS slideshow and how that could and has flowed over into their member schools like it has at Heritage. It has created an adversarial role between parents and headmasters, and by default, the school boards. This particular slideshow from the MAIS, which is included in the show notes, is incredibly troubling in how it perceives parents as entitled and not equal and or very concerned partners in the education of their children. As a matter of fact, this slideshow is not in the least concerned with the social, academic, emotional responsibilities of the school board or the headmaster for the children they are charged with the responsibility of educating. This particular slideshow is focused more on how to select future members who will think the way the headmaster wants them to think, but also to not question the headmaster's decisions. Take a few minutes to thumb through this PDF attached in the show notes. After reviewing the document, here are some of my observations and of some of the potential red flags found in the literature. One, the tone and perception of parents. The document contains language that portrays independent school parents negatively, such as referring to them as anxious individuals, having an attitude of entitlement, or creating a consumer mentality. While these points may reflect certain realities, the tone could alienate or offend the audience it discusses. Bias in its descriptions. The descriptions of parents' behaviors, for example, quote, blindly defending their child and preventing students from taking ownership and creating an environment in which the head feels under siege, focus heavily on problems without balancing them with constructive solutions or acknowledgement of positive parent-school interactions. This also suggests a lack of objectivity. Mission statement and vision. The mission statement is the Mid-South Association of Independent Schools is to certify the educational integrity of member schools and to promote the development and freedoms of independent schools in the region. And the vision, quote, as the champion of independent education in the region, the MAIS will cultivate educational leaders, provide online resources such as teacher training, curricula, and interscholastic activity coordination for member schools, and expand its sphere of influence through partnerships with national and other regional educational agencies. Well, these are broadly defined, but they lack specific measurable goals or actionable steps. While they are aspirational, they might come across as very vague to their own stakeholders, and they leave a lot open for interpretation. The legal authority and governance provides a discussion of the legal authority references the Mississippi Code 1972 and the association's bylaws, but does not provide any clarity or how recent that information is or how frequently is even updated to remain compliant with evolving laws. In its discussion of the role of trustees and leadership, the section on trustees highlights the need for confidentiality and effective governance, but does not address mechanisms to ensure accountability or how to handle disputes. This omission could raise concerns about transparency and oversight. This is perhaps the most critical piece missing that presents exactly why parents feel powerless at MAIS schools, at least in Mississippi. I have heard from parents at almost every MAIS school in Mississippi, and they all tell me stories of how if you or your child question a process, a decision, or ask for clarity on any of these things from their school boards or their headmasters, they are shot down, ridiculed, or verbally abused by school officials. Often their kids are retaliated against for their parents' decisions to ask questions and demand accountability or to demand fairness. There is no true oversight, and school boards do little, if anything, to rein in their headmasters. There is a potential based on this slideshow for overgeneralization. The statements such as parents prevent students from taking ownership, or parents introduce demands with since I'm paying tuition. This generalizes behaviors that may not apply universally. These generalizations lead to misunderstanding or even backlash. There's a lot of missing cultural sensitivity uh, in this particular piece. The language used, quote, the price of privilege, might alienate or offend many of the parents who read this because it assumes a shared perspective on privilege and entitlement without acknowledging diversity in parental motivations and socioeconomic backgrounds. Not all of the parents in MAIS schools are privileged. Many of them work hard to pay to keep their children in those schools, and many of those schools give scholarships. So, um, this is clearly a document that's not about fostering collaboration between the school and the parents that's being sent from the MAIS out to their member schools. Rather, this is clearly a world in which the MAIS sees the environment as an us versus them dynamic. It offers absolutely no actionable recommendation for addressing parent school conflicts or improving governance processes. What is interesting to note is how the slideshow assumes all parents are anxious idiots, but even more importantly, that the direction from MAIS to headmasters is to choose their own board who are his or her boss. So, what job have you ever had where you hired your own supervisor? According to their slideshow, a trustee enthusiastically promotes a culture of evaluation and participation in all appropriate evaluations. Yet the entire rest of the presentation indicates the adversarial role the MAIS believes every parent is in with their school. Thus, they state, reinforcing the communications challenges facing, reinforcing the communications challenging head is the underlying attitude of entitlement that has emerged with a vengeance among many independent school parents. Whew, that's a mouthful, but that's a direct quote right off their slides. And further, according to the MAIS, parents are no longer paying attention to the moral and social development of their children. Quote, once parents worked in partnership with schools to discipline students who stepped out of line. Unfortunately, this partnership in the moral and social development of youngsters can no longer be assumed. In other words, parents, only the school knows what's best for your child. If you disagree with their assessment of what is best for your child, you are not acting responsibly about their moral and social development. Clearly, the MAIS is supporting dictatorial and draconian behavior from their membership schools administrations and believe all, quote, parents prevent the students from taking ownership of their own behavior, learning from their own mistakes, and developing a sense of responsibility. Further, the MAIS believes that parents are acting entitled in expecting the school's leadership to respond to their requests for information, meetings, and participation in school events. Quote, today, virtually every constituent group is looking for someone who is a skilled communicator, is open and transparent, and is unfailingly responsive to the concerns of faculty, parents, students, and alumni. Responding to this explosion, the conscientious head of school must allocate time, often significant, to satisfy the communications expectations of the school communities. Parents who go to the head, whether immediately or after another administrator or teacher did not give them the response they wanted, routinely expect the head to drop what he or she is doing to address the crisis of the moment. These parents are not just making more demands on the time of the head, they are creating an environment in which the head feels under siege. And that is the close of this particular slideshow. So, according to the MAIS, the parents asking the head of school to do their jobs are now making the head of school feel like they are under siege. Wow. This explains a lot about the problems at Heritage Academy and the current administrator. He has been trained to be a victim under siege from parents. It sounds like the MAIS is teaching administrators not to take responsibility and ownership of their own behavior, nor to learn from their mistakes, much less develop a sense of responsibility. Is this an issue that is pervasive among all MAIS school administrators? Perhaps the MAIS is the tail wagging the dog. Until next time, this is Shannon Evans and the Tom Bigby Tales.